chapter. So 2.7 point. What is this? Devai vidantyati ratataranti cha deva maya Sri Shudra Puna Sabara Api Papa Jiva Yadyadbhuta Krama Parayana Shila Shikshas Tariyak Janapi Kimu Shutadharanaye. So, the surrendered souls, even from groups leading sinful lives, such as women, labor class, mountaineers, Siberians, and or even the birds and bees, can also know about the signs of Godhead and become liberated from the clutches of the illusory energy by surrendering unto the pure devotees of the Lord and by following in the footsteps in devotional service. So everything is dependent on the mercy. Either directly the mercy of Lord, but direct mercy of Lord is not so much possible, especially for the sinful people. And for the sinful people, they require mercy of the devotees. Then everything is possible. Because Huna, Shabaraha, they are all Papa Janaha. And Lord's activities are so wonderful. And the devotees are so, their nature is so wonderful. So in this way, they train. It is their training, Kriyak Janaha. Even those who are not human beings also, even they can be trained in Krishna consciousness. It all depends on the mercy of the devotees. So Adi Satviki Mataji, you should start.
Hare Krishna Mataji, Dandavat Pranam. Verse 46. Te vai vidantyati taranti cha deva mayam stri shudra huna sabara api papa jibaha jaddadbhuta krama parayana shila shiksha stirjag jana api kimu shrutadharanaye. Translation and purport by Srila Prabhupada ki jai. Surrendered souls, even from groups leading sinful lives such as women, the laborer class, the mountaineers, and the Siberians, or even the birds and beasts, can also know about the signs of Godhead and become liberated from the clutches of the illusory energy by surrendering unto the pure devotees of the Lord and by following in their footsteps in devotional service. Purport. Sometimes there are inquiries as to how one can surrender unto the Supreme Lord. In the Bhagavad Gita 1866, the Lord asked Arjuna to surrender unto him, and therefore persons unwilling to do so question where God is and to whom they should surrender. The answer to such questions or inquiries is given herein very properly. The personality of Godhead may not be present before one's eyes, but if one is sincere in wanting such guidance, the Lord will send a bona fide person who can guide one properly back home, back to Godhead. There is no need of material qualifications for making progress on the path of spiritual realization. In the material world, when one accepts some particular type of service, he is required to possess some particular type of qualification also. Without this, one is unfit for such service. But in the devotional service of the Lord, the only qualification required is surrender. Surrendering oneself is in one's own hand. If one likes, he can surrender immediately without delay, and that begins his spiritual life. The bona fide representative of God is as good as God himself. Or in other words, The loving representative of the Lord is more kind and more easy to approach. A sinful soul can approach the Lord directly, but such a sinful man can very easily approach a pure devotee of the Lord. And if one agrees to put himself under the guidance of such a devotee of the Lord, he can also understand the signs of God and can also become like the transcendental pure devotee of the Lord, and thus get his liberation back to Godhead, back home for eternal happiness. So, realization of the signs of Godhead and relief from the unnecessary, useless struggle for existence are not at all difficult for the willing candidate, but they are very difficult for persons who are not surrendered souls, but only simple, profitless speculators. Mataji, why it is saying women here?
What?
Is
Women.
saying women,
Which
I mean,
women?
with laborer
Prostitutes.
class,
Prostitutes.
mountaineers.
When we say women here, they refer to prostitutes.
Ah, okay, okay, okay.
Or every woman who is a devotee also, they will also start fighting them. शश् शश्वत् प्रशान्तमयम् शश्वत् प्रशान्तम् अभयम् प्रतिबोधमात्रम् शुद्धं समं सत् असतः परमात्मतत्त्वम् शब्दो न यत् इसलिए नॉर्मली शब्दो न यत्र पुरुकारकवान क्रियार्थो माया परैत्यभिमुखे च विलज्जमान तद्वै पदं भगवतः परमस्य पुंसो ब्रह्मेति यद् विदुरजस्रसुखं विशोकम्. So what is realized as the absolute Brahman is full of unlimited bliss, without grief. There is certainly the ultimate face of this supreme enjoyer, the personality of Godhead. He is certainly void of all disturbances and fearless. He is complete consciousness as opposed to matter, uncontaminated and without distinctions. He is the principal primeval cause of all causes and effects, in whom there is no sacrifice of profitable activities and in whom the illusory energy does not stand. So in this way, Shashvata, he is eternal, Prashantam, Prakrushta Rupena Shanta. There is no disturbance. At the same time, is Abhaya, he gives Abhyata. Pratibodha Matram, he is that consciousness which is opposed to the material counterpart. He is Shuddha, he is uncontaminated. He is equal to everyone. Sat Asata. In this way, he is the principle, he is the cause for all the cause and effects. He is the supreme cause. In this way, Shabdaha Brahma is that Shabda Brahma. He is that he is not that speculative sound. Now here it comes now. Na speculative. He is not the speculative sound. That is Shabda Brahma. Purukaraka. There is Kriyartha. There is nothing like there is an illusion in him or there is some fruitive activities, sacrifice of fruitive activities for him. No. It flies away all these things. Abhimukhe. So in front of him, they don't even stand. Vilajamana, they become ashamed. So in this way, Param Bhagavataha, Paramasya, let us take that ultimate shelter of that ultimate abode. Pumsaha, O human. Brahma iti yad viduhu. Rajasra sukham vishokam. There is no grief, there is only happiness. The ultimate happiness is in surrendering to him. Kusum, read the whole verse, whole purpose.
हरे कृष्ण माताजी दंडवत प्रणाम शाश्वत प्रशान्तमभयं प्रतिबोधमात्रं शुद्धं समं सदसत् सदसत परमात्मतत्त्वं शब्दो न यत्र पुरुषरकवान् क्रियातो माया परैति अभिमुखे च विलज्जमान तद्वै पदं भगवतः परमस्य पुंसो Brahmeti yad vidur ajashra sukham pishokam. Translation and purport by Srila Prabhupada, Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai. Translation: what is realized as the absolute Brahman is full of unlimited bliss without grief. That is certainly the ultimate phase of the supreme enjoyer, the personality of Godhead. He is eternally void of all disturbances and fearless. He is complete consciousness as opposed to matter, uncontaminated and without distinctions. He is the principal primeval cause of all causes and effects, in whom there is no sacrifice for fruitive activities, and in whom the illusionary energy does not stand. Purport: the supreme enjoyer, the personality of Godhead, is the supreme Brahman or the summum bonum because of his being the supreme cause of all causes. The conception of impersonal Brahman realization is the first step due to his distinction from the illusionary conception of material existence. In other words, impersonal Brahman is a feature of the absolute distinct from the material variegatedness, just as light is a conception distinct from its counterpart, darkness. But the light has its variegatedness, which is seen by those who further advance in the light, and thus the ultimate realization of Brahman is the source of the Brahman light, the supreme personality of Godhead, the summum bonum, or the ultimate source of everything. Therefore, meeting the personality of Godhead includes the realization of the impersonal Brahman as realized at first in contrast with material inebriety. The personality of Godhead is the third step of Brahman realization. As explained in the first canto, one must understand all three features of the absolute Brahman, Paramatma, and Bhagavan. Pratibodha Matram is just the opposite conception of material existence. In matter, there are material miseries, and thus, in the first realization of Brahman, there is the negation of such material inebrities, and there is a feeling of eternal existence distinct from the pangs of birth and death, disease and old age. That is the primary conception of impersonal Brahman. The Supreme Lord is the supreme soul of everything, and therefore, in the supreme conception, affection is realized. The conception of affection is due to the relationship of soul to soul. A father is affectionate to his son because there is some relationship of nearness between the son and the father. But that sort of affection in the material world is full of inebriety. When the personality of Godhead is met, the fullness of affection becomes manifested because of the reality of the affectionate relationship. He is not the object of affection by material changes of body and mind, but he is the full, naked, uncontaminated object of affection for all the living entities because he is the super soul or Paramatma within everyone's heart. In the liberated state of affairs, the full fledged affection for the Lord is awakened. As such, there is an unlimited flow of everlasting happiness without the fear of its being broken, as we have experienced here in the material world. The relationship with the Lord is never broken, thus, there is no grief and no fear. Such happiness is inexplicable by words, and there can be no attempt to generate such happiness by fruitive activities, by arrangements and sacrifices. But we must also know that happiness, unbroken happiness, exchanged with the Supreme Person, the personality of Godhead, as described in this verse, transcends the impersonal conception of the Upanishads. In the Upanishads, the description is more or less negation or the material conception of things, but this is not denial of the transcendental senses of the Supreme Lord. Herein also, the same is affirmed in the statements about the material elements. They are all transcendental, free from all contamination of material identification. And also, the liberated souls are not devoid of senses, otherwise, there cannot be any reciprocation of unhampered spiritual happiness exchanged between them in spontaneous, unbroken joy. All the senses, both of the Lord and of the devotees, are without material contamination. They are so because they are beyond the material cause and effects, as clearly mentioned here in Sat Asatha Param. The illusory material energy cannot work there, being ashamed before the Lord, and his transcendental devotees. In the material world, the sense activities are not without grief, but here it is clearly said that the senses of the Lord and the devotees are without any grief. There is a distinct difference between the material and spiritual senses, and one should understand it without denying the spiritual senses because of a material conception. The senses in the material world are surcharged with material ignorance. In every way, the authorities have recommended purification of the senses from the material conception. In the material world, the senses are manipulated for individual and personal satisfaction, whereas in the spiritual world, the senses are properly used for the purpose for which they were originally meant, namely the satisfaction of the Supreme Lord. Such sensual activities are natural, and therefore sense gratification there is uninterrupted and unbroken by material contamination because the senses are spiritually purified, and such satisfaction of the senses is equally shared by the transcendental reciprocators. Since the activities are unlimited and constantly increasing, there is no scope for material attempts or artificial arrangements. Such happiness of transcendental quality is called Brahma Shaukyam, which will be clearly described in the fifth canto. Hare Krishna Mataji, thank you.
Sadrugyak, sadruyak, 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 niyamya, yataya, yatato yamakkarta hetim, jhayu swarad iva nipana khanikramindraha. The two verses are. This is one. There six was there. Here two. Yeah, here one. Two line one. One verse. In such a transcendental state, there is no need of artificial control of mind. Mental speculation or meditation as performed by the Gyanis and Yogis, one gives up such processes as the heavenly king Indra foregoes the trouble to dig a well. So, so a poor man, if he wants water, what he does, he digs a well and takes the trouble of digging. So in the same way, those who want to control their mind, they do various attempts, so many attempts they do, so that they can control the mind. But it's so simple. If you just take the shelter of Lord, it is easy. So here King Indra is a controlling deity for the clouds and supplying the rains. So for him, he doesn't have to take the trouble of digging the well. So much of dhana is there with him. In the same way, bhakti means so much of dhana is there. So for self-realization, so much of trouble is taken by others. For a devotee, he doesn't have to take much trouble. That is what is given. So by mental speculation or trying to control by the mystic processes, this all is very difficult. But it's very easy by spiritual culture. Just by devotion, it's very easy even to conquer Krishna. Jito ajitopi asitreslokyam. Conquer Krishna by devotion. And devotion is also mercy of Krishna. Okay. Krishna Priya, read.
Hare Krishna, Dandavat Pranam Mataji. Shadriyad niyamya yatayo yamakarta hetim jahuhu swaradhiva nipanakha nitramindraha. Translation and purport by Srila Prabhupada, Srila Prabhupada ki jai. Translation. In such a transcendental state, there is no need of artificial control of the mind, mental speculation or meditation, as performed by the jnanis and yogis. One gives up such progress as the heavenly king, Indra, foregoes the trouble to dig a well. Purport. A poor man in want of water digs a well and undertakes the trouble of digging. Similarly, those are poor in transcendental realizations speculate on the mind or meditate by controlling the senses. But they do not know that such control of these senses and achievement of spiritual perfection are simultaneously made possible as soon as one is factually engaged in the transcendental loving service of the Supreme Person, the personality of Godhead. It is for this reason that the great liberated souls also desire to be associated in hearing and chanting the activities of the Lord. The example of Indra is very appropriate in this connection. King Indra of heaven is the controlling deity or demigod for arranging clouds and supplying rains in the universe, and such as he does not have to take the trouble to dig a well for this personal water supply. For him, digging a well for a water supply is simply ludicrous. Similarly, those who are factually engaged in the loving service of the Lord have attained the ultimate goal of life, and for them there is no need of mental speculation to find out the true nature of God or his activities. Nor do such devotee have to meditate upon the imaginary or real identity of the Lord, because they are factually engaged in the transcendental loving service of the Lord. The Lord's pure devotee have already achieved the results of mental speculation and meditation. The real perfection of life is therefore to be engaged in the transcendental loving service of the Lord. Hare Krishna.
So Prabhupada is emphasizing that it's only devotion service, which is so easy. What is required? We just have to give our consciousness, isn't it? Not a big sacrifice also. Not that we have to be hungry. We have to do so much of austerity. Nothing is required. A simple, simple thing. That is difficult for people to give, isn't it? The time where we can sit and chant, isn't it? Not we don't have to go to Himalayas, be nude there, apply some ashes. Nothing. Such a simple procedure, but that is difficult for people to take. That is what is Kali Yuga. You put them in all those drums and beat their head. What is it called? CT scanning, that and this. If a simple Ayurvedic medicine is given, he's not satisfied. His stomach is there, you just give some ajwain, he'll not be satisfied till he doesn't go to hospital, till he does not take a big thing and then some antibiotic here and there, then that show up, oh, I'm so sick. That is how in Kali Yuga, simple things have no value. But complicated things have a lot of value. Sashreyasamati vibhur bhagavan yatosya भावस्वभाव विहितस्य सतः प्रसिद्धि देहे स्वधातु विगमे अनुविशीर्यमाणे व्योमेव तत्र पुरुषो न विशीर्यते जहां. So he, the Saha, he is all auspicious. He is the master of everything. Because the results of whatever actions are performed by the living entity in either the material or spiritual existence are awarded by the Lord. As such, he is the ultimate benefactor. Every living individual, individual living entity is unborn. And therefore, even after the annihilation of the material elementary body, the living entity exists exactly like the air within the body. So he is all auspicious. The living entity, yataha asyaha, is all auspicious, and the living entity, whatever the activities are performed by the living entities, they are given by whom? By Lord only. Prasiddha means the success is given by Lord. Swadhatu and everything, the Swadhatu means the body, is vanquished, but that Purusha, the living entity, is never vanquished. So ultimately, what is glorified here? Everything is given by Lord. Whatever activities you are doing, Everything is given by Lord, everything is performed by the living entity, but who is giving it? It is given by Lord Himself. Adi Satwiki Mataji, you read now.
Hare Krishna Mataji. Sloka 49. Sashreyasamapi vibhur bhagavan yatahasya bhava sabhava vihitasya satah prasiddhi dehe swadhatu vigame hanu vishiryamane vyome tatra purusho na vishirya tehajaha. Translation and purport by Srila Prabhupada. Srila Prabhupada ki jai. The personality of Godhead is the supreme master of everything, auspicious because the results of whatever actions are performed by the living being in either the material or spiritual existence are awarded by the Lord. As such, He is the ultimate benefactor. Every individual living entity is unborn, and therefore, even after the annihilation of the material elementary body, the living entity exists, exactly like the air within the body. Purport: the living entity is unborn and eternal. And as confirmed in the Bhagavad Gita 2.30, the living entity is not exhausted even though the material elementary body is vanquished. As long as the living entity is in material existence, actions performed by him are rewarded in the next life or even in the present life. Similarly, in his spiritual life also, actions are rewarded by the Lord by the 5 kinds of liberation. Even the impersonalists cannot achieve the desired merging into the existence of the Supreme without being favored by the Supreme Personality of Godhead. It is confirmed in Bhagavad Gita 4.11 that the Lord awards similar results as one desires in one's present life. The living entities are given freedom to make their choice, and the Lord awards them accordingly. It is the duty of everyone, therefore, to worship devotedly only the personality of Godhead to achieve his desired goal. The impersonalist, instead of speculating of or mediating, can directly execute the routine devotional service of the Lord and thus easily obtain the desired goal. The devotees, however, are naturally inclined to become associates of the Lord and not merge in the spiritual existence, as conceived by the impersonalist. The devotees, therefore, following their constitutional instincts, achieve the desired goal of becoming servitors, friends, fathers, mothers, or conjugal lovers of the Lord. The devotional service of the Lord involves 9 transcendental processes, such as hearing and chanting, and by performing such easy and natural devotional services, the devotees achieve the highest perfectional results, far superior to merging into the existence of Brahman. The devotees are therefore never advised to indulge in speculating upon the nature of the supreme or artificially meditating on the void. One should not, however, mistakenly think that after the annihilation of this present body, there is no body by which one can associate with the Lord face to face. The living entity is unborn. It is not that he is manifest with the creation of the material body. On the other hand, it is true that the material body develops only by the desire of the living entity. The evolution of the material body is due to the desires of the living being. According to the desires of the living being, the material body develops. So, from the spirit soul, the material body comes into existence, generated from the living force. Since the living being is eternal, he exists just like the air within the body. Air is within and without the body. Therefore, when the external covering, the material body is vanquished, the living spark, like the air within the body, continues to exist. And by the direction of the Lord, because He is the ultimate benefactor, the living entity is at once awarded the necessary spiritual body befitting his association with the Lord in the manner of Sarupya, equal bodily feature. Salokya, equal facility to live on the same planet with the Lord. Sarsti, equal possession of opulence like the Lord. And Samipya, equal association with the Lord. The Lord is so kind that even if a devotee of the Lord cannot fulfill the complete course of devotional service, unalloyed and uncontaminated by material association, he is given another chance in the next life by being awarded a birth in the family of a devotee of or rich man, so that without being engaged in the struggle for material existence, the devotee can finish the remaining purification of his existence, and thus immediately after relinquishing the present body go back home, back to Godhead. This is confirmed in the Bhagavad Gita. In the connection, detailed information is available in the Bhagavad Sandarbha of Srila Jiva Goswami Prabhupada. Once achieving the spiritual existence, the devotee is eternally situated there, as already discussed in the previous verse. Mataji, here when it says that the devotee in the spiritual existence, the devotee is eternally situated there. But we still fall down from there, don't we?
Yeah, because aparadhas. When you say devotee, you should not do aparadhas. But his fall down is not equal to the fall down of a material person.
Right.
He will not be given the love of Krishna, but that much only. He will not experience the bliss if he does aparadhas. But he will not be removed from devotion. He will do devotion. But he will realize also. That realization is also given to the devotee. He will realize his mistake.
Yeah.
Okay, over.
Yeah. Thank you, Mataji.
Okay, next. 48. No, 48 over. No, 49 over. Oh, no, 50, sorry. 50. Soyam te vihitas Bhagavan Vishwabhavanah Samasena Hare Nanya Anyasmad Sadasat Sadasatyat Chayat. So, my dear son, I have now explained in brief the Supreme Personality of God, who is the creator of the manifested world. Without him, Hari the Lord, there are no other causes of the phenomenal and non-phenomenal, nominal existence. So, this the 6 systems of philosophy which has come because of artistic philosophy, they're all trying to find out who is the cause. That is the problem. Hari is the cause. Some say atom is the cause, some say molecule is the cause, some say prakriti is the cause, some say karma is the cause, some say artificial Paramatma is the cause. No, it is Hari who is the cause. Sa ayam Ketu. I have explained Abhihita. Oh, my dear son, I have explained to you. Bhagavan Vishwabhavana. He is the Vishwabhavana. In this way, very clearly it has been said that without Hari, nothing is possible. Everything is possible only because of Hari. Okay, read. Krishna Priya, read.
Text 50, Hare Krishna. Soyam te abhihitastat bhagavan visvabhavanah samasena harirnanya dhanyasmat sadasachayat. Translation and purport by Srila Prabhupada ki jai. Translation. My dear son, I have now explained in brief the Supreme Personality of Godhead, who is creator of the manifested worlds. Without him, Hari, the Lord, there are no other causes of the phenomenal and nominal existence. Purport. Since we generally have the experience of the temporary material world and conditions to souls trying to lord to over the material worlds, Brahmaji explained to Narada Deva that this temporary world is the work of the external potency of the Lord, and that the conditioned souls struggling here for existence are the marginal potency of the Supreme Lord, the personality of Godhead. There is no cause for all these phenomenal activities but Him, Hari, the Supreme Lord, who is the primeval cause of all causes. This does not mean, however, that the Lord Himself is distributed impersonally. He is aloof from all these interactions of the external and marginal potencies. In the Bhagavad Gita 9.4, it is confirmed that by His potencies alone, He is present everywhere and anywhere. Everything that is manifested rests in on His potency only. But he is the Supreme Personality of Godhead. He is always aloof from everything. The potency and the potent are simultaneously one and different from one another. One should not deprecate the Supreme Lord for the creation for this miserable world, just as one should not blame the king for creating the prison house in the government. The prison house is the necessary institution for the governmental establishment for those who are disobedient to the laws of the government. Similarly, this material world, full of miseries, is a temporary creation of the Lord for those who have forgotten Him and are trying to lord it over the false manifestation. He, however, is always anxious to get the fallen souls back home, back to Godhead. And for this, he has given so many chances to the conditioned souls via the authoritative scriptures, his representatives and personal incarnations also. Since he has no direct attachment to this material world, he is not to be blamed for its creation. Hare Krishna.
The Lord is not attached to this material world, but He is the cause for all the causes. Everything emanates from Him. So, whose samvad is going on? Between whom? Who can tell? You should know that what is the conversation, between whom the conversation is going on. Open, open. How can you? We should know also, na? Whose samvad is going on. Yeah. Narda is there, my dear son. So, who can say this? Brahma. Brahma Narada samvad is going on. Did you check this? Always when that, because when we read so much now, we forget who has
Yes.
who is speaking to whom.
Right.
Okay. 51st verse. Idam bhagavatam nama yanme bhagavato dinam sanghayoyam vibhutinam tvametad vipuli kuru. So this Bhagavatam, this is the science of God. Namayat me bhagavataha. The science of God, the Srimad Bhagavatam, was spoken to me in summary by the Lord. So who Lord gave this knowledge to Brahma? Brahma gave it to Narada. And this was spoken as the accumulation of his diverse potencies. Please expand this science to yourself. Expand this science yourself. So Sangraha, Lord has given all his diverse potencies, the knowledge of the diverse potencies, the science of the diverse potencies to me. Brahma says, now I have given this to you. Now you expand this science. That means spread this science of Lord's knowledge to everyone. Science of God. Okay. In summary, he has taught me. And now expand it. That is what the instruction Brahma is giving to Narada. Okay. Kusum read.
Hare Krishna Mataji Dandavat Pranam. Idam Bhagavatam Nama Yanme Bhagavatoditam Sangrahoyam Vibhutinam Tvam Etad Vipuli Kuru. Translation and purport by Srila Prabhupada. Srila Prabhupada ki jai. The translation: O Narada, this science of God, Srimad Bhagavatam, was spoken to me in summary by the Supreme Personality of Godhead, and it was spoken as the accumulation of his diverse potencies. Please expand this science yourself. Purport: the Bhagavatam is in a nutshell spoken by the personality of Godhead in about half a dozen verses, which will appear ahead, is the science of God, and it is the potent representation of the personality of Godhead. He, being absolute, is not different from the science of God, Srimad Bhagavatam. Brahmaji received this science of Godhead from the Lord directly, and he handed over the same to Narada, who in his turn ordered Srila Vyasadeva to expand it. So the transcendental knowledge of the Supreme Lord is not mental speculation by the mundane wranglers, but is uncontaminated, eternal, perfect knowledge beyond the jurisdiction of material modes. The Bhagavata Purana is therefore the direct incarnation of the Lord in the form of transcendental sound, and one should receive this transcendental knowledge from the bona fide representative of the Lord in the chain of disciplic succession from the Lord to Brahmaji, from Brahmaji to Narada, from Narada to Vyasa, from Vyasadeva to Sukadeva Goswami, from Sukadeva Goswami to Suta Goswami. The ripened fruit of the Vedic tree drops from one hand to another without being broken by falling suddenly from a high branch down to the earth. Therefore, unless one hears the signs of Godhead from the bona fide representative of the disciplic succession, as above mentioned, for one to understand the theme of the signs of Godhead will be a difficult job. It should never be heard from the professional Bhagavatam reciters who earn their livelihood by gratifying the senses of the audience. Hare Krishna. Thank you, Mataji.
We have to be very careful. There are nowadays so many speakers of Bhagavatam. You on the TV, you have many speakers. But their life, you will see, they are more than even actors, Bollywood actors. And they sit in Vyasa and they have makeup and that and this. Mm. And then their habits are also too much. But the Bhagavad Kathakars are spending money like anything. Somebody told me, Mataji, मैं जाकर भागवत कथा सीख के आऊंगा. सीख के आओगे? हाँ, वो संगीतमय भागवत कथा. I said to fool people and earn money out of it. I said you'll be beaten by the law of nature, understand? Instead of that, study, na, chupchap study, word to word, how Prabhupada has given us. For us, nowadays, again, in our ISKCON also, there are people who are trying to do. But Prabhupada has clearly warned, don't make it as professional speakers. Don't do that. But what to do? The world is like that, so they are trying to. But again, we can also fall down in that. You have to be very careful. We have to speak simple. Bhagavad Gita happens in our temples also. We should be very simple speaker, not that you have music and you just. You have to be a simple speaker, but a true speaker. That will actually enter the heart of people and that will transform the people. Or these type of Bhagavad Kathas where so much of show and all these things are happening, they will neither uplift us also nor anyone. Yes, it will make some money, some donations will be collected, but that is not the purpose of Bhagavatam. Now see what is the purpose of Bhagavatam is going to come in this. Yataharau bhakti runam bhaktir bhavishyati sarvatmanakhiladhare iti sankalpa varnana. So yatha, describe about Lord with determination and in such a way that human beings can understand, enlighten them. Akhila adhare, they should understand the Saman Bonam. Do it with determination, not complicate the things. Do it in a very nice way, that is, so that it will be possible for the human being to develop transcendental love for Krishna. And that is a Saman Bonam, so he is a Saman Bonam source of all energies. Okay. Krishna Priya read.
Hare Krishna. Dandapranam. Text 52. Yada haro bhagavati nrunam bhaktir bhavishyati sarvatmanyakhiladhare iti sankalpya varnaya. Translation and purport by Srila Prabhupada. Srila Prabhupada ki jai. Please describe the signs of Godhead with a determination and in a manner by which it will be quite possible for the human being to develop transcendental devotional service unto the personality of Godhead Hari, the super soul of every living being and the summum bonum sources of all energies. Purport. Srimad Bhagavatam is the philosophy of devotional service and the scientific presentation of man's relationship with the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Prior to the age of Kali, there was no need for such a book of knowledge to know the Lord and his potential energies. But with the beginning of the age of Kali, human society gradually became influenced by four sinful principles, namely illegitimate connection with women, intoxication, gambling, and unnecessary killing of animals. Because of these basic sinful acts, man gradually become forgettable of his eternal relation with God. Therefore, man become blind, so to speak, to his ultimate goal of life. The ultimate goal of life is not to pass a life of irresponsibility like the animals and indulge in a polished way in the four animal principles, namely eating, sleeping, fearing, and mating. For such a blind human society in the darkness of ignorance, Srimad Bhagavatam is the torchlight to see things in proper perspective. Therefore, it was necessary to describe the signs of God from the very beginning or from the very birth of the phenomenal world. As we have already explained, Srimad Bhagavatam is so scientifically presented that any sincere student of this great science will be able to understand the science of God simply by reading it with attention or simply by regularly hearing it from the bona fide speaker. Everyone is hankering after happiness in life, but in this age, the member of human society, blind as they are, do not have the proper vision that the personality of Godhead is the reservoir of all happiness, because He is the ultimate source of everything. Janmade asaye yata. Happiness in complete perfection without hindrance can be achieved only by our devotional relationship with Him. And it is only by His association that we can get free of distressful material existence. Even those who are after the enjoyment of this material world can also take shelter of this great science of Srimad Bhagavatam, and they will be successful at the end. Narada is therefore requested or ordered by the spiritual master to present this science with determination and in good plan. Narada was never advised to preach the principles of Bhagavatam to earn a livelihood. He was ordered by his spiritual master to take the matter very seriously in a missionary, missionary spirit. Hare Krishna.
मायां वर्णयतो मुष्य ईश्वरस्यानुमोदतः शृण्वतः श्रद्धया नित्यं माययात्मानमुह्यति. To describe the affairs of the Lord, Ishwarasya Anumoditaha, appreciate, hear, Shraddhaya, everything should be done with devotion. Nityam, every day, Maya, so that living entity is not bewildered by the illusory energy. We are trying to do so many things just to attract the young crowd. And it's all okay. But whatever has been told by the Shastras to do it in a simple and best and dedicated way, that has to be followed. Sometimes, yes, we have to give something like a chocolate in a different way. That is also required because the trend is Shobhaji, na? So the devotees of ISKCON, when they do the Bhagavad Katha, when they do it in a very polished way or something like outsiders, we should understand they are not like others. They don't have any inner motives. Their only motive is somehow give chocolate and hook people. If we don't do that, they'll go to some other person where they do in such a way. That is why nowadays, but again, our motives should be right. If our motives is wrong, then we'll also fall down. What is our motive is more important. It is for Loka Kalyan, it is for bringing people to Krishna consciousness, then any Shobhaji is okay. But if it is for personal agendas, that Krishna only knows. We don't know. We cannot comment. So we have to be very, very careful because here instruction given by Brahmaji to Narada is speak, be dedicated, be determined, and spread this knowledge. So missionary task is very, very important. So last verse, Adit Mataji read and we complete the chapter.
Hare Krishna Mataji. Text 53. Mayang varnayatah musya ईश्वरस्यानुमोदतः श्रीनाथः श्रद्धया नित्यं माययात्मना मुह्यति. Translation and purport by Srila Prabhupada. Srila Prabhupada ki jai. The Lord's activities in association with his different energies should be described, appreciated, and heard in accordance with the teachings of the Supreme Lord. If this is done regularly with devotion and respect, one is sure to get out of the illusory energy of the Lord. Purport: the science of learning a subject matter seriously is different from the sentiment of fanatics. Fanatics or fools may consider the Lord's activities in relation with the external energy to be useless for them, and they may falsely claim to be higher participants in the internal energy of the Lord. But factually, the Lord's activities in relation with the external energy and the internal energy are equally good. On the other hand, those who are not completely free from the clutches of the Lord's external energy should devotedly hear regularly about the activities of the Lord in relation with the external energy. They should not foolishly jump up to the activities of the internal energy, falsely attracted by the Lord's internal potencies, activities like his Rasa Lila. The chief reciters of the Bhagavatam are very much enthusiastic about the Lord's internal potential activities, and the pseudo devotees absorbed in material sense enjoyment falsely jump to the stage of liberated souls and thus fall down deeply into the clutches of external energy. Some of them think that to hear about the pastimes of the Lord means to hear about his activities with the gopis or about his pastime like lifting the Govardhana hill. And they have nothing to do with the Lord's plenary expansions as the pseudo avatars. and their pastimes of the creation, maintenance, and annihilation of the material worlds. But a pure devotee knows that there is no difference between the pastimes of the Lord, either in Rasalila or in creation, maintenance, or destruction of the material world. Rather, the descriptions of such activities of the Lord as the pseudo avatars are specifically meant for persons who are in classes of the external energy. Topics like the Rasalila are meant for the liberated souls and not for the conditioned souls. The conditioned souls, therefore, must hear with appreciation and devotion of the Lord's pastimes in relationship with the external energy. And such acts are as good as the hearing of the Rasalila in the liberated stage. A conditioned soul should not imitate the activities of liberated souls. Lord Sri Chaitanya never indulged in hearing the Rasalila with ordinary men. In the Srimad Bhagavatam, the Science of God, the first 9 cantos prepare the ground for hearing the 10 canto. This will be further explained in the last chapter of this canto. In the third canto, it will be more explicit. A pure devotee of the Lord, therefore, must begin reading or hearing Srimad Bhagavatam from the very beginning and not from the 10th canto. We have several times been requested by some so-called devotees to take up the 10th canto immediately, but we have refrained from such an action because we wish to present Srimad Bhagavatam as the science of Godhead and not as a sensuous understanding for the conditioned souls. This is forbidden by such authorities as Sri Brahmaji by reading and hearing Srimad Bhagavatam as a scientific presentation. The conditioned souls will gradually be promoted to the higher status of transcendental knowledge after being freed from the illusory energy based on sense enjoyment. Thus end the Bhaktivedanta purpose of the second canto, 7th chapter of the Srimad Bhagavatam entitled Scheduled Incarnations with Specific Functions. Thank you, Mataji.
Prabhupada warns about the 10th canto. Don't take it immediately, take many things, signs of God. So how the presentation has come, the same way we should also present. How Brahmaji has presented the same to Narada, how Narada has presented to Vyasa. 10th canto was not started, no? 10th canto is afterwards. Ashray Tattva, the 10th subject matter, Ashray Tattva, is actually the 10th canto. 11th and 12th refers to the 8th and 9th Vishaya subject, Vishaya Vastu. The 10 subject matters among that 8th and 9th is actually 11th and 12th. So what adhikara we have? Directly take the Ashray Tattva first. To understand Krishna, first we have to understand the sweetness of Krishna. One has to understand the opulence of Krishna also. There is a science of God. One should not take Krishna very cheaply. Okay, so I'll stop here. So we have
Mataji,
done.
Mataji, Hare Krishna. I'm planning to write the essays and do my oral, but I cannot do the written exam.
Not
So,
do the
so
essays.
in, yeah, 2 essays, huh? Is it still 2 essays?
Yeah. You can, I'll just check with Bindu Mataji
Okay.
and do the oral source. Okay, then?
Yeah. Yeah.
It is perfect. Yeah. Right.
Really good.
Just write the exam schedule, what I had given. I don't remember what I had told last time. Just write the exam schedule. So I can talk to Bindu and then accordingly we'll do it.
Okay.
Just put in the list and then if something changes there, I can let you know.
Okay, Mataji.
Okay. I'll stop here. It's not why it's not stopping.